Hi and welcome back. Today I'm going to talk about what might be one of my favorite places that I've been to so far this year in my travels. And I'll tell you where it is in a minute, but first of all, my name is Kyria, and in the last 26 years I've actually been to 60 countries now because Georgia was my 60th country. So there are a few things that really make me love a place from first sight, and one of them is beauty. And the place I'm about to talk about has that. The other is outdoor activities, and it also has that. The other is good food, nice people, fresh air, and an overall sense of feeling at peace where you are. So I will not make you wait any longer. The place that I'm talking about is Mestia, Georgia. This is a little tiny mountain town that sits up almost to the border of Russia in the Caucasus Mountains. And it's a little bit hard to get to. You do have to take a minivan to get there, which they call marshrutkas. And for me, I was coming from the town of Batumi, and so I had to take two different marshrutkas, one to the town of Zuruldi and then another to the town of Mestia. So it was about a 6-hour ride altogether. And so it is a little bit difficult to get to, but it's completely worth it. They actually do have a flight from Tbilisi if that's something that you want to try. There's only one airline. It only goes once per day. They're often canceled, and I don't even think it goes every single day of the week. And so I did look into that. You can't book it. I think it was about 2 weeks in advance, so you can't book it any farther out than that. So I decided to just go overland, and it actually ended up not being as hard as I thought it was going to be. I thought overland was going to be a real pain, to be honest, and that flying would be a lot easier. But in the end, I think going overland is perfectly fine. If you're coming from Tbilisi, you might have to come to Zugdidi as well, and then take another van from Zugdidi to Mestia, but again, so not as hard as I thought it was going to be. Once you're there, there's a ton of different guest houses. However, just be aware, many of them only take cash. All right, I made it to Mestia, which the scenery was really beautiful. The ride was a little sketchy at times. They're doing a little construction, so it's like a dirt road half the time. There's cows and pigs and horses and dogs on the road. But the scenery was awesome. So it's a windy road with mountain views. It's really nice. I'm at the GRN Japaridze guest house in Mestia, and I got a room for a few nights. I'm not sure if I'm going to do day hikes or try to do a longer one. I kind of wanted to see how the weather was and the hills were and everything. But anyway, here's my room. Very, very basic, but don't really need much. I have a couple of plugs, but I don't think I have any by the bed. Check on that. There's another one. Then we have a bathroom. Oh, so it's wet shower, which means that the doesn't have walls, so it just drains right onto the floor, as you can see. So this kitchen and living room area is also shared. So this is shared. So it's nice to have the option of a kettle so I can make coffee in the morning. And yeah, I mean, I don't really need much. I'm going to be out hiking, I'm assuming. So I hope that I won't really need to use this, but it also is nice to meet other people somewhere. So it's kind of nice to have a common area. What I didn't realize when I gave you the tour of the room was that I have a view. Oh my God, I have a view. Look at this. A+. Love it. The one I stayed at was about roughly $10 US per day, cash only, but there are ATMs in town, so that's not an issue. And like I said, I came from Batumi, and I had gotten cash out in Batumi, so that was no issue as well. There's also a ton of exchange places, and most of the time the rates are pretty fair, or at least pretty equal between each other. So you can get a rate that's very similar to the one you get from the ATM if you exchange money. So why is Mestia so special? Well, as you know, I like hiking. One of the big hikes in Mestia is on the Transcaucasus or Transcaucasian Trail, and that goes from Mestia to Ushguli. This usually takes people about 3 or 4 days, depending on how fast you are. And you can stay in towns the whole time, like little villages, and so you don't need to carry a tent. So a lot of people do this. However, I was there at the end of May, and the snow was still a little bit too much snow when I was there. So Ushguli is pretty high, or the passes that you have to climb to get to Ushguli are pretty high. And so it's probably better if you go in June, maybe even a little bit later in June, or July or August or September. So I was there a little early, unfortunately, but that didn't stop me from doing a lot of hikes. So if you're into hiking, this is definitely a great place to go. I did 3 different hikes. I'll go over them really quick. The first one is the Chalaadi Glacier. So you can hike all the way to the glacier from the town of Mestia, which is what I did. It's a little bit far. It's a 16-mile round trip. So that took me about 6 hours, I think. But if you want to, you can get a ride from town to the trailhead. So it was basically 8 miles each way. The first probably 6 miles were through town and then on a dirt road. So you could totally skip that and just go straight to the trailhead, where you would have roughly a 2-mile hike to get to the view of the glacier. So 4-mile round trip. And that was about, let me just check my notes again. That was about a 500-foot gain from the trailhead. So that would be a lot easier than going from town. However, it was actually kind of nice to go through town, because you go and you see all the Sven towers and lots of cows and green pastures, and you kind of have a view of the glacier as you're getting closer and closer and closer. So that was actually quite nice, but it is quite long. So I do understand if you want a shorter one, you could just start at the trailhead. You can get a ride from a taxi. There's tons of taxis in the main part of town that are willing to give you a ride. I'll give you a quick glimpse of my day right now. All right, today I'm in the town of Mestia, and I'm gonna try to hike to the Chalaadi Glacier. And I'm still kind of in town, but I wanted to show you these towers, which are very typical in this region. So there's lots of them. I'll show you. All right, got uphill a little bit. So far so good, but yeah, still a long ways to go, but what a fun place. All right, so this hike is supposed to be a round trip of about 14 miles and a total elevation gain of about 1,800 feet. And I thought it felt kind of flat. If you see, like, I'm basically just walking on a road right now, but I've actually gone up almost 700 feet. So it's just a slight incline at the beginning. So we'll see if there's a steep part at the end or if it just continues on like this. All right, I found the climb. So I've gone about 6.5 miles and climbed 1,100 feet. So I have about 700 more feet of climbing. And I think it was supposed to only be a 14-mile round trip. So maybe, I don't know if it's all gonna be in half a mile or what, but I will report back. It's kind of a interesting difference. It's lots of trees now versus I was on kind of like an open area before. So look at this. It's tempting. The views are getting good. According to the sign, there's a half an hour left, and according to my watch, I still have 200 feet of climbing, but I've already reached 7 miles, so my 14-mile round trip is not quite accurate.
But I just wanted to say real quick, I've only been in Georgia for 2 days, but everybody that I've met so far has been super nice. Super nice. Even if they don't speak English, they're still super nice. I mean, everybody's been very kind. So my first impressions are good. Okay, all right, I made it to the top, but it's 12 o'clock. It's supposed to rain around 2, so I'm gonna ski daddle out of here ASAP. Here we go, glacier, done. Okay, made it back to the road, and now I have about a 6-mile walk back to town.
So the next one was up to the Mestia Cross. This, again, same thing. You can go all the way to the Koruldi Lake. So if you go all the way to Koruldi Lake, it is 5.3 miles to get to Koruldi Lake, and that's a 4,500 foot gain. So that would be basically a 10.6 mile round trip. However, you can just go to the Mestia Cross. So that is 2,700 feet of climbing within about 2.3 miles. So 4.6 mile round trip. That one I think is completely worth it. I think if you're not a huge hiker, going up to the lakes might be a bit much, but going up to the cross is really, really nice, really great views, beautiful, and I would highly recommend it. It is a bit of a climb. It is a bit of a steep climb, but you can just take it slow. And there are little cafes once you get to the cross. So you can hike up there and then go and have a coffee or a drink for your efforts. So that one is completely worth it. Let me give you a quick glimpse of that day.
Good morning. Well, it's another beautiful day. And today I'm heading up to the Mestia Cross or Koruldi Lake, hopefully, if all goes according to plan. So it's really clear and pretty. A little cold right now, but I think it'll get hot later on. And this is basically going to be uphill. About a 9-mile round trip, or 10 miles, with, I forget how much feet of climbing. I'll put it on the screen. I checked the elevation gain. It's going to be 4,400 feet of climbing today. So I made it to the Mestia Cross, and if you just want to do this portion, you can, it's about 2.5 miles and 2,700 feet of climbing. So that will be, it's nice, it's a great view, awesome view. So there we have it, but I'm going to continue on. Ooh, the views just keep getting better. Sorry, I know you can't really see me. The views just keep getting better and better. Look at that. All right, I'm getting close to the top. I'm currently at 8,600 feet, and I've climbed 4,000 feet, and the total climb will be 4,400 according to my map that I'm using. And this part I'm climbing up right now is a 19% grade, so that's fun. I made it, Koruldi Lake, or one of them at least. So as you can see, a little bit frozen over, and I could keep going, but I'm not sure I want to chance the fact that I might be walking on the lake where I can't tell that I'm walking on the lake. So, ooh, that's bright. So I probably will stop. So let's see, total is 5.24 miles. I'm at 9,000 feet. It was 4,400 feet of climbing, and it took me 3 hours and 47 minutes. So I'm going to sit and enjoy this view and have a snack and then head back down.
Okay, so the next one is on the opposite side of the hill, which goes up to the Zuruldi Ski Resort. So that one for me was a 13-mile round trip with 4,000 feet of climbing. And basically you climb up on the other hill, up like under the chairlift kind of. And then when you get to the top, you have a view of Mestia down below and then the other side of the mountains, which you couldn't see before. So you do get a different view than I did the other days. But I would say out of the three of these, if you have limited time, this was my least favorite of the three. So I would recommend Mestia Cross first, Glacier second, and then the ski lift one third. So let me give you a quick glimpse of that day though, just so you can see what it looked like.
Good morning. All right, taking another hike. Today we're gonna head up the mountain on the south side of town instead of the north side of town, which is where we were yesterday. And this one will be about 11 miles round trip with about almost 4,000 feet of climbing. So it won't get as high as yesterday. This will only be about 7,700 feet at the top. But yeah, so I'll show you right now where I'm heading. Okay, so it's been about an hour and a half, and I've climbed about 1,600 feet, and now I'm at about 6,000 feet, and I've gone almost 2 miles. The last section was pretty steep. I went from like 800 feet of climbing to 1,600 feet of climbing, like in a very short distance. But now, as you can see, I'm kind of on a little flat area. But I think all in all, like I said, I have about 3,700 feet of climbing. So I am definitely not even close to done. I can see where I was the day before yesterday and where I was yesterday, somewhere over here. Maybe I'll put an arrow on the screen, but yeah, there's the Mestia Cross and the lakes, and then over there is the glacier that I walked to. So pretty cool to see it from the other side. I made it! Okay, I finished the hike. I went and got food. I went to the bakery and got a huge piece of bread, and I got coffee for tomorrow. And yeah, good day. About 13 miles and about 8 hours in the end. I mean, well, I'm not including dinner and stuff, but it was a longer day than I thought it was gonna be.
So those are the three hikes I did, but you can do so many other hikes. Like I said, a lot of people do the Mestia to Ushguli hike, but you can also hike the opposite direction and go on the Trans-Caucasian Trail the other way. Or if you want, you can go all the way through Georgia on this trail. So you have lots of options. Also, a lot of people just take a taxi up to Ushguli because it is a nice town. And so a lot of people just like to go there. So if you're not a hiker at all, you can still go to Mestia, go to Ushguli for one day, wander around town the next. And the most important thing is you can try the Georgian food. What I didn't realize until I got to Tbilisi was that the food in Mestia is quite inexpensive. So I went out to eat every single day and I didn't pay more than about $15 for my meal with 2 glasses of wine each night. So yes, I had 2 glasses of wine. The wine in Georgia is really good, and the kind that I like is Saperavi, which is a dry red wine. They have a sweet red, they also have dry white and sweet white, and that's usually how it's stated on the menu is, dry and sweet and red and white. So, but the majority of the time, the dry red was a Saperavi, and that is my favorite kind that I tried in my time in Georgia. So I would recommend you get that. The 3 restaurants that I went to, the first one was called Layla. And I actually went there twice because I liked it so much. A couple of dishes you definitely have to try. There is an eggplant appetizer, and it's basically eggplant with walnuts. The walnuts are kind of like hummus, but they're walnuts instead of pine nuts. So it's like a paste in the eggplant. And even if you don't like eggplant, you have to try it. It's very good. It's very good. Also, the other thing you can try, of course, is kinkali, which is like a dumpling, or you can try the khachapuri, which is a bread with cheese on it. So those are kind of the popular tourist things to try. But some of the other things that I really like are osti, which is a pork and tomato dish. And the other one is oja curry, which is like, you can get it pork or beef. I got pork, I like pork, but it comes with potatoes and pork kind of in one of those little skillets like a fajita, and it has lots of garlic, lots and lots of garlic, so just beware. So those are the dishes I think you should try. The other 2 restaurants I went to, which were really good, one was called Koruldi, and the other one was called Lushnu Kor. Koruldi, I think I'm pronouncing that probably wrong, but it's Qoruldi. It was basically like a man and his wife, tiny, tiny little place, and they serve the wine in plastic bottles, like plastic water bottles. So that was kind of fun. Plus I got to try cha-cha. If you haven't tried cha-cha, it's the local liquor made out of grapes, kind of like grappa in Italy. So plenty of things to try and really good prices and really, really nice people. The man didn't speak any English, but he was giggling and he just kept raising up the cha-cha and asking if we needed more. There were other people in that he was doing the same thing to. So that was kind of fun. So definitely, I think, a great place to go, even if you don't like hiking, completely beautiful and worth a couple of days at least. But for me, I stayed 4 days. I actually extended my stay because I liked it so much. And I think I could have stayed easily a few more days. And I really, really wish I would have been there a little bit later in the season so I could have done the 4-day hike to Ushguli. But next time. Anyway, that's Mestia. It's definitely worth going to see. It really just, when I first got there, I just really liked it right away. And the more I stayed, as I mentioned, I stayed an extra day. The more I stayed, the more I wanted to stay even longer. So it's worth going and I highly recommend it. So if you have any questions, please leave them in the comments. And of course, like and subscribe if this is something that's interesting to you. And thank you very much for watching and happy travels.
All right. All right. Looks fuzzy, huh? Does it look fuzzy? I can't tell.